Happy New Year all! After putting out my most recent Christmas video, I did decide to take the rest of December off to better celebrate our Lord and Savior. That did, however, mean that I missed out on the Game Awards. Now, to be completely honest with you, I don't normally pay that much attention to award shows, and most of all of them are either run by elitist, pretentious snoots or are just a popularity contest from the crowd, but seeing as E3 is dead and buried, the Game Awards is one of the only big industry events that we have left, which does make it a prime platform to announce your new games. Now at this year's Game Awards, we got the reveal for the most recent Naughty Dog project. Again, to be truthful with you, when it comes to game companies that made iconic PlayStation games about anthropomorphic animals, I've always preferred Sucker Punch. But let's at least give them a chance to interest us with their trailer for their next big game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet.
I'm wasting my time, aren't I?
It's not horrible, I guess. Ignoring the somewhat blatant product placement, the surface level allusions to popular franchises and products, and the fact that the title Heretic Prophet is something of an oxymoron, there has been a ton of discussion online about this game, and not all of it positive. One of the main points of the online discussion is the game's main character, who I am told is named Jordan A. Munn. All of the debates seem to be focused on how totally unappealing this character is, and that has led me to ask the question, what actually makes a good main character anyway? Obviously, not all main characters are made equal. I mean, some are icons, legends that people will remember for years to come. Others are cult classics, popular with their niche, but without any real mainstream appeal. And of course, all of these characters, both major and minor, are all standing on the piles of failures.
On the one hand, gold. On the other hand, painful, agonizing failure.
Thousands and thousands of characters have come and gone as their creators and companies dreamed big and shot for the stars and fell totally flat. Now they are all forgotten and lost to the sands of time. Which means that we should probably ask why. I mean, what actually makes a main character stand the test of time? What actually contributes to them being so well beloved? Why do we remember some? Why do we forget others?
Sorry, I can't remember.
What? Stop goofing around!
Goofy, sure you didn't make it up?
I don't think so.
I should preface this by also stating that I am primarily going to be talking about main characters in video games, if you couldn't tell. Though, I do think parts of this discussion can apply to a main character in TV shows, movies, comics, other media across the board. There are a few things I think every character needs, and ultimately, I think it comes down to one real question. Is this a character that I want to play?
Hey, you're the tech whiz, not us.
A lot goes into those 9 little words, believe me, but ultimately, if you're looking at a character and you ask yourself that question, and the answer is no, that means that someone, somewhere, did not do their job properly. So let's try to break this down further.
And here we go.
Our goal is to flip that no into a yes. In order to do that, you have to solve some other problems first. And over the course of this video, we'll try to relate this back into how I feel Intergalactic failed to solve these problems. Now our first problem is one of aesthetics. Now I will confess that I am not much of an artist, but I do like to pretend that I know a thing or two about narrative and game design. It doesn't take a particularly astute eye to determine whether something is visually appealing even. When it comes to main characters, the design needs to be visually distinct.
Excuse me? Why do you look like me?
I don't look like you. You look like me.
There are a lot of avenues you can explore with a main character, but the design itself really needs to be visually distinct. When the audience sees a character, they should be able to place them quickly and easily. Even if they don't know what franchise that character is from, the design should be unique enough that it sticks out in their brain. Just so you have a quick example of a unique design, take a look at Sora from Kingdom Hearts. Everything about Sora's aesthetic stands out, even amongst other characters with similar anime art styles. I mean, for starters, you have the highly distinctive weapon that is the Keyblade, which is so iconic just on its own. I mean, you can find replicas for sale at even the smallest, most insignificant local conventions. It doesn't end there, though. His bulbous pantaloons and giant clown sneakers stand out, as well as being a reference to the Disney properties he is based on. Sora is a design that, on a purely visual standpoint, sticks out with the viewer. Meanwhile, Intergalactic's main character is a completely forgettable, bland display.
Yeah, exactly. White bread. You're boring. Look at you in your stupid outfit.
I mean, throughout the trailer, she is wearing a generic gray sleeveless top. Later, she dons a red jacket to offer something a bit more distinctive, but even that's not much to go off of. Almost all of the things that could make her design stand out in any way are covered up, ignored, or removed. She has some sort of necklace or dog tag on, and that could mean something, but it's not prominent enough in her design. She has tattoos, but they're very generic, black. They don't stick out at all. You don't even really notice them. And going bald doesn't help either. If anime has taught us anything, it's that a hairstyle can make a character really stand out. Something interesting visually that could give Jordan a distinct silhouette and visual flair. But without any hair, she's rendered bland and skippable.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
The thing that interests me even more about a main character's art, beyond just a simply visually appealing and unique artwork, is how that art can convey details about the character before you even see them move an inch. The main character of a game is quite literally the poster child for the experience the devs want you to have. There are some characters that you can look at a still image of and instantly know things about both the character themselves and the world they inhabit.
I've been sitting out there for the last half hour trying to come up with a story that would explain my being here dressed like this.
Everything from the type of clothing they wear to their pose and facial expressions can give the viewer a good look into just the world they are stepping into when they turn it on. For a good example of this, look at one of gaming's icons, Sonic the Hedgehog. Even if you don't care for Sonic games, I frankly don't, it is hard to argue that Sonic's personality is, quite frankly, iconic. I mean, what's really cool is how much of it can be absorbed just from an image of Sonic. Again, I'm no artist, but even someone like myself can tell how cool he is without any real knowledge of art design principles. He's got simple shapes and colors that catch the eye. He's got a lot of these sharp lines that are stylized in a way that gives him an air of edge. Sonic's poses are often in motion, helping convey his speed-based powers and his fun-loving personality. Just from this simple artwork of the character, I can now understand just a little bit about who Sonic is. I know, without any further information, that Sonic is supposed to be the cool guy, the fun kid. He's extreme in that late 90s, early 2000s way.
If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably false.
On top of that, Sonic's design is clearly the basis for most of the rest of his cast of characters. When you finally do play a Sonic game, you'll see that almost everyone, from Knuckles to Shadow to Amy, seem to, in some small way, shape, or form, modify the base design of Sonic in a way that better contrasts him and makes Sonic's character and influences on the world feel just a little bit more real.
What are they all staring at?
Let's turn again to Intergalactic. What do I know about this character entirely from her design? Now, truth be told, the game I feel does a touch better at this than their attempt at making her visually interesting, but not by much. She has some scars, which would help convey the concept that she's a bit of a fighter, but honestly, beyond that, what do we really have? I mean, the rest of the trailer tells us a few things, but remember, we're trying to focus entirely on the design alone, not the world around the design. What is Jordan telling us about herself and her world based off only her appearance? If you saw this character without any context, what would you be able to tell me about her? Because honestly, I can't figure that much out, which is precisely the problem. Now, you could include that energy sword she was using in the trailer as part of her design, which is more than fair. I mean, I was counting the Keyblade earlier when talking about Sora, but how much do we get out of this? Because I don't see anything, really. I'm really trying. All an energy sword tells us is this is a sci-fi character. That's not giving me anything. After that, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea who Jordan is, what she does, what her personality is like. And that's not what I should feel about the star character of a major video game. There's probably hundreds of millions of dollars behind this, and I could tell you nothing about the main character.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man. We can put that check in a money market mutual fund. Then we'll reinvest the earnings into foreign currency accounts with compounding interest, and it's gone.
Now, the previous 2 points I made about visually appealing designs and the character and world's personalities coming through in the design, those could apply to most other types of media. Now, the unique thing about video game characters is that they have one further thing that they need to consider. That's the fact that the main character design can also explain or highlight aspects of the gameplay.
Obviously.
After all, the main character is serving as an envoy of the game to the general public. It's probably a good idea if the public can get an idea for what they're physically going to be doing when they boot up the game. This can be pretty obvious in some areas. After all, a character with a prominent gun or a sword can be expected to use those weapons at some point. I mean, that's the design equivalent of Chekhov's gun.
That's the rule of Chekhov's gun. Have a gun.
Just look at one Solid Snake. Now, the gun on his hip clearly indicates that when I play Metal Gear, I should expect to do some shooting. However, in most artworks of him in things like box arts and manuals, Snake is only ever carrying a single small sidearm, and is usually dressed in a slicker jumpsuit design, as opposed to more traditional military fatigues. That accurately conveys the fact that Metal Gear is primarily a stealth game. If you go in guns a-blazing, you're gonna get yourself destroyed.
Hey, quit kidding around. Snake? Snake!
How about another example of why we're on a roll? How about Kratos from God of War? In all of his designs in the first 3 games, Kratos is a muscles upon muscles beast of a man. He's carrying burning, jagged swords that almost look like cleavers with bright red tattoos invoking the color of blood. With only a glance, you can tell that this is a character who is all about tearing his way through enemies. There will be no puzzle solving or complex strategizing. Get in there, start beating your enemies into a paste. And I can determine all of that just by looking at the character. I don't need a single frame of gameplay. Intergalactic once again fails to account for this in Jordan's design. I have absolutely no idea what the game plays like. No one does, as far as I know. The trailer and Naughty Dog's official website, as of this recording, show no gameplay, and all the website has to offer is information about the story setup. My guess is that Intergalactic will likely be a third-person action game with some survival elements, but I can only make that kind of assumption because I know Naughty Dog's previous titles and the fact that the website says that Jordan is stranded on a distant planet. Jordan's design isn't helping at all. I mean, the only tool or implement that is part of her design is that energy sword, and without context we have no clue how that would be used. Is this game going to be an action-packed sword-fighting game, or is it a slower game about surviving in a hostile environment, occasionally fending off enemies? Lots of characters use swords, believe it or not. I have no way of knowing, and that's a really big problem with this design.
There you have it, Evil Jeff. The difference between a hideous growth on my butt and a profitable hideous growth on my butt.
Now, I don't want to be completely negative, but seeing as I already pointed out 3 major ways Naughty Dog dropped the ball on this character design, why don't we at least use our lessons to break down another character? Let's end this on a more positive note to see someone who did things right. Since we're already working with the theme of sci-fi characters stranded on a hostile planet, let's apply what we've learned to Samus Aran from Metroid. Both characters are even supposed to be bounty hunters. Right off the bat, Samus makes a big win in the visual design department. I mean, the Varia suit is a true piece of art. It has a good mix of what seems colorful, fantastical, and practical. The colors are bright and eye-catching, but also without appearing overly garish. The suit also appears to hug the frame closely, especially around the lower half of the body, making it visually distinctive from other depictions of power suits in media. Traditionally, most power suits in media lean into the armored bulk of such a weapon, but the power suit is a bit more sleek, a bit more elegant. All that makes Samus's armor really stand out and stick in the mind of the player. In terms of personality and world building, Samus also does quite well. The hoses on the helmet and the fact that she's wearing a suit at all prepares the player for a potentially hostile environment, which is an understatement for the world of Metroid. The air itself may be dangerous or just not exist since this is a game set in space. In most depictions of the Varia suit, little of Samus's actual face can be seen, giving the impression that the character is somewhat detached from the player. Samus is isolated within her metal shell. This in turn will mirror the feelings of solitude that the player will experience, as in most Metroid games, non-hostile NPCs are few and far between. And of course, how about gameplay? Samus doesn't just carry a gun, she traded her hand for one. The blaster is the most prominent weapon on the Varia suit, and wouldn't you know it, almost every single way of manipulating the environment in the game comes from the blaster. In fact, with the exception of the Morph Ball and a couple jump upgrades, the only tools you get that expand what Samus can physically do are blaster upgrades like missiles, wave beams, and ice beams. Samus's blaster is her most prominent tool and her most prominent gameplay item. I also like how a lot of the art of Samus, particularly when she's in action, will have her using her other hand to brace the blaster. That sort of thing serves to make the blaster a bit more prominent in the viewer's focus while looking at the art, while also building up its importance in gameplay. It's such a powerful weapon that requires an extra hand to stabilize.
This is power. This is...
Should have mentioned the recoil.
At the end of the day, I don't actually want to come across as overly hostile to Naughty Dog. While I truthfully have never been their biggest fan, I do actually want them to make good video games. I mean, they hold the rights to franchises that mean a lot to a lot of people and gaming history. But one must call them like they see them, and their latest project does not inspire confidence.
I move for a vote of no confidence.
Based only on the trailer and this now extensive deep dive into, well, let's just say their poorly constructed main character, I see no real reason to buy Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. Maybe I'm wrong though, and it's a legendary game that just so happens to have a poorly thought out main character. Only time and the audience reaction will be able to tell us that. So, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please give it a comment, please give it a share, and subscribe to the channel for more. I've been Landon, I'll see you in the next video. Happy New Year, everybody.